This is the Election Bureau. You're welcome to the Voters Diary. My name is Apnanya Miche live on Citi TV. Today we get to wrap it all up for you. The matters arising from the just ended presidential and parliamentary elections. Of course, we'll delve into some constituencies that were quite controversial going into the elections, and they were tipped to see fierce competitions. And of course, some of them, the incumbents, lost their seats. So we'll be delving into those issues and many more here on the Voters Diary. You're welcome back. This is the Voters Diary. My name is Apnanya Miche. I'm here this afternoon with Selom Adonu, Head of Features and Articles here at Citi FM and Citi TV. Selom, good afternoon. Good to see you.
Hi, good afternoon.
I hope you're doing well.
I'm great. And yourself?
I'm well. I'd like to hear your general impressions about the election process from the day of voting, December 7, to declaration. But before that, I mentioned to our viewers that we'll be delving into some specific constituencies. One of them is the Gomua West constituency, where the incumbent Alexander Aban lost the elections. A couple of weeks before the elections, we were in that constituency and interacted with some of the constituents on their needs. They spoke about roads, among other things. We can take a watch at what the people told us back then.
It is the Election Bureau, and I'm currently in Gomua West in the central region, still looking at how things are panning up in the lead up to the election. Now, behind me is this road. This particular road will critically impact the outcome of the elections here in the Gomua West region. I'm told that this road, for example, connects to most of the areas in the Gomua area. So I'm going to speak to one of our correspondents in the central region to understand this road, where it leads to, and why it will play a key role here in the Gomua constituency for the elections. Calvin Stetter is one of our correspondents. What's the name of this particular road? Okay,
this road is the Gomua de Rampon Road. This is a road that connects to most of the Gomua towns through to Swedro and then connects to Winnipeg again to Accra. So this road is a major road, but successive governments have failed to construct this road. People who live on this stretch have complained about the fact that the road is dusty and authorities have failed to address the situation. So this road, I believe, will play a critical role in the elections.
Okay, and we're told over the period it's a road that has been captured in the budgets, successive budgets, but nothing really has been done about it.
Yes, it's a road that has been captured in the budgets and nothing has been done about it. The last time I spoke to both parties, the NDC and MPP, the NDC were saying that this road, they believe, will play a key role because the current MP, lawyer Kojokom Aban Alexander, promised to fix this road. But up until now, nothing has been done. We also have a major health center on this stretch, and it is creating a lot of problems for the center because the dusty nature of the road is actually preventing people from going to the place to access health care, Vivian.
Okay, so let me speak to some operators of commercial vehicles here. This is a very popular taxi rank. Immediately you veer off the main road. This is the taxi rank that you meet, and loads of taxi drivers are here. Boss, about your saying?
Yeah,
how many years now?
Almost 5 years.
What station are you? Now, quite way I say, mobile vote, drink and son of vote.
No credit.
I didn't say.
Because you have a roadway, SAH, and President MP no Bahano, so I say, obey a road in my. And see, if any more road in so 1 year. Now I say I promise you do obey. And see, if I'm the Edu, who said that I better one and I am to man, any day we interim.
Now, road no pen and mobile share and son number 2. Then Biom now over consider and son of
and taxi drivers now 100 idea you focus on roadie and the other dank will be trying and roadie at the teacher. Yes, we had it to about.
It's a road no one and you know, we'll say, oh, car no. say o fix ya ye ji ahia.
I made one thing in the road in any inti minye juma nko or the hanusu na nke juma no so esapa ba road in any inti minye juma nko the side. Yeah, one way say if there nko one more this road here anka drivers e betumi aye juma more akọ other lane do but because 1 year road in inti yentumi nko ho.
Nti a ha say a kwa infa.
Ha ne de mo akọ the ramp on Swedro. That called the ramp on Swedro.
Nti say a o one way a ha say o ji ahe.
Oh, if you have no call, apam no muji 3 cities.
Okay.
But if I have na the ramp on 5 cities each. But road na yen inti here on Koho.
Okay. Nti December 7 so be to aba.
Oh, abana the motto na pa abana ze. Ye road in Kotin na ye hwe we dey to aba. Nyama bebre ho a ye hwe we dey to aba. Ba ye hwe road in Kotin wo dey anka ne de mento. Ba ye onye by on your baby, I have
a bed so biom now, oh, where ato aba.
Oh, and near mamma, been there. I'm a matri baba 3, matri mamma 3 or how free education free. And as a young woman can scam matrian within 3 years in the Monodorson. But free education in Tiaman to men to escape your down. And to make her one can free education when I measure one to aba.
So we're still in the taxi rank here. At the Gomwa West constituency, we're picking the thoughts of taxi drivers here as we move into the election area. How long now?
For 5 years.
5 years. Now, you man no
this way, you know, yeah, we know, papa.
And then I don't know, cancer.
One time you're in there, but
Corona no.
Yeah, na afiso. Ama na skenche dan your mind nti.
Na corona you say am free electricity, am free water. Esa amani am bebre na emboa mo, amboa mo.
Am de me fi am wo de me use pipe ni, but obi so o area me yakobun su de ogin ska.
So you jimuska.
Yeah, ogin ska. Na afiso yen light no use meter mi ti atwe wo mbi mo nche. Enso sometimes Rebecca just say we omode beraba but yen so dey use meter ni binti omo ba na omo abaji kaka na omodoko nti but all
the ama ye chiche corona time no dey wo dey wonye bi
oh corona breed no wo ba chiche we sanitizer ni we nose mask but we lawyer aban wo ba chiche bi na we Richard John also be chichebi. I was saying, me sign yes akabia na e di ejuma.
Na December over to aba.
Oh, I am in a planet.
Dia na obehwe na obede ma MPP, NDC ana CPP, KKK ana wan dia na obehwe ansa na obe.
Okay, me de mehwe na obo betum aboa because gumbuana na e won de insha dan nyamboa obi bia. Because especially kwa ya kwan and
kwan we on.
Yeah, kwan we then high pan ye kra.
How many years na kwan no onye?
O kwan we ache be say 8 years ni. 8 years because even kwa in this building but na so 8 years wan bibia na ye mama MP we so
lawyer
so buy also 4 years or because uncle becha also ntumi ande in chokwa nti aban sa se kwan no wodi aburo on pan. Because I found quite 1 way. Until now, when I went to Oma, how so can say you call me? Quite a name to walk can never say. To won't call, and so I joined a lie. Why? They do son away very call. Until they are share, because only be soon so as some answer. Okay, until a giant who be Wabba, you to my 1 year she, a bush of Molbans, a boss of my share. Yeah, she then so between my baby boy.
Nti say NDC buy or more ye kwan no mam. MPP so buy or more ye kwan no mam. Nti what dey be ma hwan?
I am in a pedia because I'm lawyer that me man a chance then that me 4 years able to my into my issue am.
Nti what dey my NDC na hwe say.
Ono so sabi because then I asumji na epe na omo be ya gumbua my so yeso ye be ya no ezi obokodo wa wanti.
Na presidential no so
and here and the bed I'm a uncle Wabako young why as a Mwabo Ghana for
All right, so those were constituents of Gomoa West speaking to Vivian Kailoko. It wasn't only about the roads. They also had concerns, referring to the fisherfolk in Apam and the issues that would influence the candidates they were to choose on December 7.
We're now at the Palm Beach. We are going to speak to the fishermen here, also pick their thoughts of the upcoming elections, their thoughts around the upcoming elections, and some of their challenges here and how successive governments have performed over the years. Mamejina, I had not met to me anymore. Mamejina, until you ever Kwesi.
Kusachin.
Maluda. Okay. Now, Mojuma no question.
You want to do more time, Malakia. You want your masters near our boys.
So, your master, now, boy.
Your boy.
Oh, now, more your boys.
Masters know how master Bakuni Bakusuni.
Okay. And how many boys who Casamiria made a masters to Bacasa? Now, boys, no, you want to cost them, mamma.
More till boys in your Jimmy Morcod no. Young for Subia.
I didn't say
so young with that. Anytime, Biano. I bet be over that dying. I bet be over that dying. Be there. We better just go over machines.
Umba G Musca. Why not be G's cano?
In paying for no war or a querumo. What's your obey machines?
Machine bay.
Abbo motor.
Outboard motor.
Yeah.
I'm a G more here.
Oh, on more than young your masters into me and chase Cadua.
Also, say what done, master. Master now, Casta 60. Say, Umbamamo outboard motors. I been 2 years ago, and this year.
This year,
60 cities to group, and now then.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, Umbaji's can still move on one.
You probably 20 and 30.
No more to say, I feel so. Boat train boat to open so. Won't say your net no. Baby, what I'm more when you're more. No, what ballad in a what by yes, you did party, you did one. About true, what said no. We are no that soon you know, I got to know what to. Near by no the way, no, my bobo. Until no more, you may high papa, the boy.
Now, you are away, why and how many years? We'll say how many years? I'm master boy.
20 years.
20 years, more age, man. Now compare 20 years, no. If I say 4 years ago, and this year, no difference. Ben, a woman.
Oh, difference behind the Fabia.
Say,
Difference behind. Net, Sakubo was saying net now. I am a discrimination as also like a net for Sani at here. No, what years casual machine is one family. Chocolate will tell you be ansana.
But this year, premix for all I send me there, say, baby, I can find.
Baby, I will find on
Premix is still in back. Master, I'll say that.
About 20 business, what they Calabule.
Calabule,
some were 1.2. Some I want to go to 550. But 1.2. What your business?
Oba, and business in our head on quarter. Because you could share you on one drum 5.6. But you got a connection, who are 11 million, who are 9 million, who are 12 million. And you support to know other. Maybe I'll continue about the business that again on quarter. Yellow, my other yellow, if I tell yellow, what would I come? You could have answered.
4 gallon, no.
Where's it? Where's it? You could share yet on 550 tired. You could share it on 550 tired. But I got a connection 1.2. 1.2. Nobody, no, you're told promise or too much. About motion me from top.
Now, this year, about no mobile too.
Abandon a moment to my margin to Abba.
I know too.
My margin to Abba because Yedi NECH, Yedi MPPH, we are patrol bar. Woman, Obi woman patrol, woman patrol on tongue. And see, also anytime they are about those who be in a local to Ablechi, about Ablechi, obi a tin kan na nka no tu right way nti ma ma te papa di ma adwo DC pa je muntu aba
on to presidential na parliamentary so MP so beto
ni na muntu kwa
na MP no ya oba ha mo MP no oba ha
MP ni do no e me nka no kole e mala menje ma hu papa pokom hare
onem no lawyer Aban na we hu no da
wala ba hunu an fa
omba ha
oyum no ba ba sha o to aba o wi puntu a da wo yo wo me ya frefo mpa no bo ye
to won to man
yele muntu ma Aban muntu Aban se muntu kwa
vote
kan after ejwe
4 times fair na etobo ma ba etobo
ani be ni tuma no tuma bo na ase barista me ni tuma e wo ha wo bia na ni wona patrol no ka ya wo e to tron boat lo wa me ngba wona tuma ona na ka ya na ka lo tuma 100 million ala 150 million ne ka fi o ne ka fi ya ka te wo ka boat ba gba ya fe ka ti e wo ba ko se ya ta wo ko file hu ona ne ku sala hu ni e ka he ya ka ne kwa ka ne me fe ne ku se ni e ka bon wo ya ta ba fete ne hia bi e gbe ka bi ne hia ngala na ma ya school to ba fete wa ba ya ba ni
no kwa ya me ba ko bi ani nye ke sa ne ba
ko bi adan tumo be nya wi o amba ko be me nya ba bi enyo ko mo wi
o MP o lo MP
MP mbo lele
o le lawyer Aban
ben lele ni jasi mbenkele
wo MP o vote aka MDC MPP o vote
dabi nya bia na la ni insini ndumo nya ma ka ba si na ko ne kan mi la second tia ka mbo tadi ka mi mi ko mi kan ngote mi ya de kan wo nya ma ka ba si mi ka ha mene
mi no ba kwa no kwa ha mene alo mene
mi jo asi ka mbo tadi ka mi ona ni mi ma ka ba si mi kan ngote sande ni mi na tia do ade ka mi ona be ni jo
o wa kwa fishing no chumo no kwa o kwa consider
be mu fisherman mu no chumo mo yo agun.
So let's get some more views from the Apam Beach. So this is the Apam Beach. If you look around me, it's a pretty filthy beach. A lot of filth all over the place. A lot of plastic disposables, bottles and all that. Pretty filthy beach. And most of the fishermen here are not happy. They say a lot of interventions were promised. Government or authorities have not supplied or given them those interventions, and they're pretty not happy with the current situation. Let's pick some more views from fishermen here at the Apam Beach. Hey, where do you?
She's where about me? How much is it? Me, I say. Yeah, I told you. I got to say something about me. But you must want to buy premix. Why?
That's why this year premix no money no fine.
Premix no. I want to say you. We share the motor connection.
Connection. Why want no more connection?
Connection. I want to be told I'm confirm no more yegma. I'm to me see them. I'm to connection. Abode. I'm to
na connection there no ahe.
10 million, 15 million, 18 adi I'm to me. Who share a couple?
No original price no ya.
Original price 5.6.
5.7 na motor no 800 ni one.
50 million. 50 million. Mba mo misma mo woko. No wada mo, no wadi bia about to da me. What on duampo ni e de sia e moda. Also appoint for ba tin e wo ba di esika wo kwem na ta bo na appoint e ntumi ne mpo yamfa mesi. Asa ekura. Tama ye be yen dua no wada baba no. Dua kuretin 700. This 700 na use by 70. I say this amount. Ndaba fan for your brother papa. Fan for your brother.
Nam no monya nam no.
Ese.
Nam no ya monya.
Nam no yenya ni na so ni yenya.
Monya ni ye. Now as compared to last year no. Nam no time be na in terms of monya.
I am management the August time no. August. Na yetumi ni yenya. Onu po yenya. Obi anya bi nti no bo nso onya de. Obi anya bi ndama no bo no onya de. Ni se bi ni kanya kakra so a ni na patrol nti ye ba ya spend ni ye be wie no. Nya farfo na ye ko adwuma na ye sika ni na akash patrol skam. Na ya ye be ya cheska mant ni na ya cheska 2 million, 2.5, 3 million. Ye nya do 9.
Na this year mo beto aba.
Sisiano, ya go fu pa ya batu na mpo aya di amen. Aya di amen. Ena abano so sisia so bibi wo de. O na waya ma afalofo. Wonya no ntama ta mo boso de o na woto aban. Ninti wodi bibi nkaka so wodi kese opanyi bi nsema. Onso yado. Onso yado. Enjo ya du ntama ya nya adwene bi dai. Ya bato aba na yeso ya ba hwekwan ya ba fodo ya bato aba. Osa na emi tu am abrebo am wo mi se mo wo mu wonde we ndi sno wo bra. Ada oya na me nje na na mo to mo no. Onu wa asem na ma hwe no so ma to aba. Se me ye nja mo to aba na on ye. Mo bato so ma se no mpokura ne ye hu dai.
Oh, we say no. We say no.
Me ye ni ye amaye. Me ye ni ye amaye. Na se me ye ni ye no so ka di mpokura ni se ma. No no wa afa. Afa da mo so oha Ofa na ma oha. Nja ade pebre no oha enya afalofo.
We say kwase ana kwase. Oh, kwa MPP and now kwa NDC.
Oh, Emi Ukraine agasa no Ghana fra ade kura wo ye win de. Ye nyina so ye nya beebi ne ye gina. Ya pirima ye busuafo. Nti ye mpia ntentenfo no. E bia ntentenfo no won na wo bre, won so an stra wo bre. Won so awanya no so wanya ade bia so wanya. Efri oyen wo de ba. Obi ansa na wo de ba ma afalefo wo de ba ma wo de. E bia 120 million no. Obodu nyina owo a won so bakada de ba ye we adwuma no. Na ye 200 million, 150 million. Into Abanama still our children. Or the monster, and the interest so abogudu, and a year man de Tiaco, still a one name, Uncle Wayne. There are some crowd high. Premise in the Sanka share 6 and what on 5.6. No, but on 8 million and 9 million. Not that I bring him. I bring him also Oka. Enya na ma wusika dudu no na abenyi na enye sika ibi dakwo okopuma enye sika bi 3 million ato number 3 million. Na da 8 million yi fi ma abakai nto eyi kakre na oha pa
ba cho so beto aba on to aba are na on to aba presidential so
but no, I didn't be Baba Pada Falfo. Baba May, Yana Noma. No man saw what the man, if you know what the channel, no man, Yabi Mutra meeting, also no man, if you know what the man, may I want to fight. And when I watch your normal, be man, be man, you two, be man, you three, if you say, you be proud. Me, I'm a two, may you be crampo. And me, you'll be on the way you've been what did that come, what I made me. It's all about the man, the man who come in, and in for the Mokagina. Enjoy your pa. Enjoy your.
Yeah, that was it. My train.
It is obey your no man. Now, what I'm on, one friend, no, obey being what I bought for the far. So, be away, you may be one friend from noon day, the most special wage money. There may be a government or the BB bar, and with the money or them at the most messy. Where do you import what happened interest rate? Somebody no case will be done. I know they be young.
All right, so those were the fisher folk in Apam speaking to our team a couple of weeks back before the election. Salom, listening to the concerns these voters raised, it suggests that they carried out with their anger at the parliamentary candidate for the incumbent MP, Alexander Aban, and voted him out. Yes.
They raised a number of issues. I'm not sure if all those issues were within the purview of the MP, but I mean, you can't really blame them. You blame the politicians because when they go around telling people, when they go around canvassing for votes, they tell the people a lot of things they are unable to do. They make them too many promises. And, you know, as it turned out, the road, which was a major issue, was not constructed. And so they had to punish somebody for it. And who else to punish than the MP? I think that, I don't know if it's in the interest of the politicians themselves or not, that we need to begin a conversation where we refocus what the MP does, you know, and then what the other developmental agents like the MC or DC or the ministers, etc., should be doing. The MP's job primarily is to represent and to make laws, etc. But now we see them as people who have to get on the ground and do infrastructure. Because they tend to make all these promises. That is a problem. So I think it also raises the issue about election of the DCEs. Because if we are having an election of DCEs, and so the DCE will be saying those things. The MP necessarily may not be saying those things because somebody is already saying that. The MP should focus on this business of lawmaking and representation, ensuring that the voices of the people that they lead, those voices are amplified so that eyes are redirected at them. But of course, somebody may also ask that if you are amplifying their voices for what? You amplify their voices so that their needs perhaps will be addressed. And what are their needs? Their needs are the roads, the toilet facilities, jobs, etc. So I think we need to actually come to a point where we will know, we can agree on what MPs should be doing and what DCs and other agents of development should be doing. Otherwise, we will get into this system where MPs will go and promise heaven and they cannot deliver. So what they say is that they have to lobby. So if you're a good MP, you should be able to lobby your ministers or your colleague ministers, blah, 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 to be able to get work into your constituency. I think it's a tall order. For Goma West particularly, I was interested to see what the outcome of the election in that area will be because of Alexander Aban. I like him, he's my friend. Yeah. Very decent politician, if you ask me, one of the very decent politicians, a very consummate gentleman who practices a different kind of politics. And in his kind of politics, he doesn't think that he has to bend the rules for you necessarily. What is right, and what is wrong. And that has been his approach. Very friendly, very down to earth. He walks about in his constituency with shorts, playing keyboard in church, doing all those kinds of things. But it appears that the larger sense of entitlement of the people in respect of what they think they must get from their MPs, did not favor him. So the roads, I'm not sure if, perhaps he might have pushed for the road to be done. And they say the road has been so for many years.
The Gomwa-Darampon road.
Many years.
They point to it.
And nobody's been able to do it. And so, the people who ply the roads are taxi drivers and trotro drivers maybe. And one of the key influential people in elections are drivers, very unassuming. Everybody sits in a car. They listen to conversations. They talk. And if a driver is talking, he carries a number of people in a day. And they talk, they influence people. Yeah. They may not set out to influence people.
They start conversations and bring in their opinion
so look
and
at
other
this
things.
This road is suffering. You're on the road to, it's dusty. You are struggling. The driver is complaining that this road, this politician said he would do it, he's not done it. Now we will see what will happen this time. Those things, you keep hearing them every now and then, and you are suffering the dust, the potholes, etc. It's only natural that when it gets to a point, you will get fed up and will want to change the MP. The issue about Gomwa is not just about the road, that particular road, the other smaller roads, but there's an issue about the fishing too. And often the coastal communities in our country are one of the poorest, very, very poor areas. And their needs are what? Basic, fishing matters. And so issues about premix fuel, some attempt was made to resolve that, but it appears that the premix fuel was not really resolved. There are issues about fishing inputs, etc. And that led the government, through the president's fisheries input support scheme for fishers, to establish, a scheme of a kind to help improve the livelihoods of people living along the coast. It didn't appear that given how the MPP is lost a lot of seats across or along the coastal areas, it appears that scheme didn't work. That scheme was to support livelihoods by providing fishing inputs, gears, outboard motors, etc. And they talked about outboard motors too. That there was, under this scheme, the Ministry of Fisheries and Aquaculture procured a number of outboard motors into the thousands, and so there was a scheme to split the cost of it between government and the fisher folk. So government was to pay 40%, and the fisher folk were to pay 60%. So how do they do that? They may do that in clusters. You contribute and then you pay. But it still appears that did not, go down well, because people think that it's only people who have connections or people who are connected to the system in a certain way, were those who got access to those. But I see the fishing communities are quite manipulated, and they talk. Yeah. They talk when they are pulling their net. And they are waiting for to catch. They talk when they're on the boats. They talk. And
it's a long chain. The fishmongers.
It's a very long chain. So if it's not positive for one side of the chain, or one end of the chain, it runs through the other. And the same complaint, if for example, there is light fishing ongoing, and because of that, they are unable to make the catch the way they expect, it runs through to even the person who consumes the fish, because the cost of fish will go up. The fishmongers, the women, they will suffer. And the women are in the central region, especially, the women are breadwinners. The women are very hardworking. The women are breadwinners in the family. So if they begin to complain and they begin to feel the pinch of the economy or local economy, then you can be sure that you, being their leader and being a political leader, you will certainly take some beating for the difficulties to go through.
I'd like you to tell us what you make of the wind that blew around some incumbent MPs and their loss. But I need to take a break here. This is the Voters' Diary on Citi TV. We'll be back shortly to continue. Don't go away. You're welcome back to the Voters' Diary on Citi TV. My name is Abna. I'm here with Selom Adonu. Selom, before we went for the break, we were using the Gomoa West incident to talk about how voters expect so much of their members of parliament. Do you say that is what accounted for the members of parliament, especially those with the MPP, who lost their seats?
Yeah, that's one of them. Other factors, complacency is one of them. Arrogance of power. People you knew before, I mean, you go to them, solicit for votes. Once you get the power, you now ride on the high horses. You see them, you don't mind them. We are, our society is quite interesting. I mean, they want to still see you around them. You may not give them a lot of money, or you may not give them money, but they want to
be able to relate.
They want to be able to relate to you. They want to be able to reach you. You were with them, now you got a post, you drive by in your V8 with glasses rolled. They will show you. When they vote you out, you will now come back to their level. That's why some very successful MPs like Haruna Idrisu, even Nina Tevanapo, etc., they have connection with the people. You go, you see them, they mingle with the people, they interact with the people, they play cards with the people, they do things with the people. The people want them around them. That's all they can get from you, really. And so if you refuse to do those things, it's a problem. Whether it is good or not is another matter. Sometimes they are poor at representation. I mean, there's this thing about people or MPs speaking in parliament. Of course, we are told that
there's a whole system.
Yes, that the job on the floor is just a minute part of it. So parliament is bigger than the floor. But I mean, I want to be able to point to my MP and say, that's my MP.
We've had people who say, we never see him speak on TV. We want an MP who can talk in parliament.
And in political science, I mean, we are told that MPs who speak or are vocal on the floor of parliament are more likely to bring development to their people. Okay. I mean, it's like that. Aside from the development bit, I want to be able to point to my MP and say, that's my MP speaking in parliament. It makes me proud. When I'm interacting with my friends, I'm happy. You get me? So these are little things. The other thing too is that the voter is getting very sophisticated. So he doesn't necessarily think that he votes for maybe the presidential candidate, so he must vote for the same person because the person belongs to the presidential candidate's party. Now they have a choice between the various candidates. They see the president to be a bit far away from them, so they blame every problem they have economically, etc., on the MP, because the MP is the one close to them. And in their minds, the MP is the one supposed to carry their problems to the top. And so if the top doesn't get to deal with it, then it means the MP hasn't, performed that coordination or that liaison role quite well. The other thing I think contributed to this also, which is related to the point I just made, has to do with the local economy. People punish the MPs for their problems. Sometimes they feel the president is so far away. So, for example, like we go around, people say, okay, I'll vote for Nanado because of free SHS. Yeah. So they feel Nanado is delivered his part. But my MP is not doing it because my road is not good. Bad. Forgetting that the road is also part of the president's agenda. But because they feel the president is delivered on what he promised them, they think he's done well, and that the road has not been done because this MP, when he was coming, he said he was going to fix it, and he hasn't fixed it. The fisherman, the MP, we don't see him here again. We don't even know him. He's even in town. We don't know him. He lives in Accra, and he comes here when he wants. We don't see him. So let's vote somebody who we can interact more with, somebody who can be around us every time. So it's not just one factor. I mean, a number of factors play out at various places. We've had incidents of independence, for example. So the incident of an independent candidate could take votes away from an incumbent, and so that incumbent may lose, even though that incumbent would have done a lot better, or a lot more, or would have done better compared to others for the constituents. So a lot of factors, actually account for why people lose their seats.
Talking about independence, I think we can switch to Formina constituency now and talk about Andrew Amoako-Esiama, who is the incumbent but contested as independent candidate following all that issues arising from the party's primaries. He was dismissed from Parliament. What do you think happened with the people of Fomena in their minds? This is your MP, and this is the party you love. But we saw them choose their MP, even though the party says he's no longer a member.
Well, I think the people of Fomena thought that their MP hadn't been treated fairly. He had issues with the process. And, of course, they were not oblivious of the fact that the MP had running battles with the constituency chairman and some constituency executives. Yeah. So, perhaps in their estimation, the MP was right, and the constituency executives were wrong. So that's one. Number two, after he took the matter to court, he's a lawyer, so of course he believes in the court process. The court threw him out. He couldn't, and he in principle, he said he was not going to run because he had problems with the album. And so once the process leading to the primaries was flawed, he didn't see why he should waste his time and get into that process. Now, the way perhaps the bigger party dealt with him, of course, in accordance with their constitution, many felt was not right, because this is somebody who has been dealing with them, and now you are sacking him, so he's losing the MPship because he's not running, in that sense, for the MPP, and you are sacking him again from the party, you know, and the manner in which it was carried out, writing to the speaker eventually, you know, sacking him from Parliament, etc. Even though that was the law playing out, a lot of people don't process things in that form. They tend to get a bit emotive when dealing with persons they know. So that, I think, didn't help. And I think he calculated well, too. Yeah. I remember one of his interviews, he said he's a lawyer and he's an MPP person. He understands the implication of his decision, which meant that he knew what he was talking about. They say when a blind man wants to stone you, it means he has his
he has
his
something. Let's refresh our memory about what the Fomena MP told us before the December elections.
I just want to tell the nation that I am winning almost every polling station in the constituency. And just mark it. Almost every polling station we are having, I'm winning. I'm very confident. I'm winning and winning and winning. I think that time I said it. I wish that you people come here on the election day. Probably if you are able to announce it to the nation, the real results of Fomena. I want it to be the first results to be announced to the nation. I'm winning.
Why do you seem so confident?
Oh, sir, it's the people. Election is about the people. What the people tells you, what you see about the people. According to the people, I'm not even speaking for myself. According to I've served and served them well. Respectfully, honorably, I've served them well. And that's why they want me to continue. It's not my humble self, but about the people, right? I'm a sitting member of Parliament. I'm not oblivious of all the consequences that is associated with the step I'm taking. But I'm taking that steps. That tells you that I know what I'm doing. I'm winning.
Can you highlight some of the things you've done for the people?
Almost every community, there's something that you can pinpoint that in my reign I've done in them. Every community, there's something going on.
What percentage are you targeting?
I'm expecting about 70% of the popular vote. And you can bet me on that.
All right, so that's Fomena MP-elect Andrew Amoako-Esiama. I don't know, he's a former MP now, dismissed the MP, now MP-elect. And he was so confident.
He was so confident, and that's interesting for just a first-term MP to have such a huge connection with the people to the extent that he could be so bold in making the declarations or the professions he was making. That's quite interesting. Of course, hearing this prior to the election, you may be tempted to treat it as normal political talk and over-bloated confidence of politicians. But upon hindsight, it clearly shows that he knew what he was talking about. Only that the 70% mark that he targeted didn't quite happen. He made 48.56% against Philip Ofori-Asante of the NPP, making 40.95%. The NDC's Christiana Ama Ransin Barabu made 9.89% with 2,608 votes. So the Fomena question, I mean, it's for a first-time MP, and it wasn't somebody who was very loud on the floor of Parliament. A lot of people didn't even know him until this Fomena things started coming up. I think he's done himself.
He's done well.
He's done very well. He's done very, very well. And I think the MPP will be crawling back to him to see how helpful he will be to their cause. But let me quickly address it. There are people who, I've heard interviews and reports of the NPP saying that if he applies, they are ready to welcome him back and things. He cannot join the NPP.
Why
if
is that?
If he joins the NPP, he will lose his seat. It's as simple as that. So let's make this clear. He cannot join the NPP. He can only work with the NPP
He can work with the NPP in Parliament.
But he cannot officially join the NPP. Like we've heard John Boyd and other people say that he will have to, if he wants to join here, he will have to apply officially. Yes, he will have to apply officially. But why will he want to apply officially when you sacked him and he's won his seat as an independent candidate? Once he joins you again, he loses his seat as an independent candidate.
Just as they use the law of him deciding to contest independence, losing his membership.
This by law.
Okay.
Article 97, which talks about how MPs could vacate their seat or lose their seat. Said a member of parliament shall vacate his seat in parliament. So let's go to H. If he was elected a member of parliament as an independent candidate and joins a political party. So that's simple. So the article or the provision they used against him was G. That is, he vacates his seat in parliament if he leaves the party on which he was a member at the time of his election to parliament to join another party or seeks to remain in parliament as an independent candidate. So they use G against him. Now he's at H. If he joins the party officially, he will lose it. That is why when in 2005-06, when Professor Wayoseni of the NDC, he was MPP, but he joined the NDC because of the Dagbon matters at the time. He joined the NDC. At the point, he said he didn't feel NDC was his home, and he said a number of things. So he was crossing carpet. He had to resign from parliament, and then now he had to recontest the election. I think that's how come that was the re-election that brought Inusa Fuseni to parliament. So he now contested as an independent candidate. He had joined the MPP, but he could not run on the ticket of the MPP because of some party constitutional matters. If you leave the party, you have to serve for a number of years. You can't just come back and say you are contesting. So what the MPP did was to make him run as independent, but NPP did not fill the candidate.
So if he decides to join the MPP, the Fomena seat becomes vacant again.
So the same thing will happen. But what they can do is to make him run as independent, but will not fill the candidate. So that he becomes an independent candidate, and then, but without an MPP person in that constituency, so that he enjoys the full complement of the MPP votes. A lot will depend on how he works, whether he will choose to still go whether he has to go with independent with an MPP candidate fielded. I don't know if he can repeat the success or the victory as an independent candidate, because once you get into power, a lot of things change. And a lot will also depend on him, on how he negotiates. I am clear in my mind that he will sit with the MPP side, or whether they are majority or minority, but he will sit with the MPP side because he is MPP, true and true. He is MPP by roots.
He was campaigning for Nanado.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I'm not sure he will join the NDC side. I think he will join the MPP side, but he cannot be MPP as in a party member. Of course, you don't have to join. You don't have to be a member of a party to say. In fact, in Parliament there is no NDC MPP. There is just majority. So that the majority party sits on one side, and the minority parties also sit on the other side. So
we have a few minutes to wrap up, Solomon. But just quickly on the Techiman South incidents, we've seen one press conference after the other. The NPP saying this, the NDC saying that. But yesterday, the EC sought to give us a hint of their reasoning on that election in the Techiman South constituency for the parliamentary because of the tally they brought. But the two parties seem to still disagree, and the NDC wants to go to court on that.
Yes, the two parties disagree, but yes, going to court is part of the process. Of course, NPP has also said one of the seats, the Savulugu seat, has been given to the NDC. NPP says
they will go to court or they will go to
court. Going to court is part of the process, and it's part of the adjudication, because if there's no avenue to ventilate your views and seek redress, and there'll be chaos. So the courts are there to help resolve the matter. So it's proper that they will want to go to court. But I mean, the way I wish I knew how the EC concluded that the seat belonged to Party A or Party B.
Of course, they just did indicate that it's only Senate West that's outstanding.
Yes.
Then that brought that inference.
It would have been nice to see how they concluded or they arrived at that conclusion. But in the absence of that, you can't take it away from the NDC that they want to contest it in court. Of course, same for Savlugu. It's within their rights to do. It's only unfortunate that people had to lose their lives in the manner they did. Just an election to elect a member of parliament and people losing their lives. I think I thought we had gone beyond that as a democracy. It's sad, and I think we should all condemn it. And I hope that persons who were involved in the shooting and the killing will be investigated. And if the discharge of the bullets was done irresponsibly, they should be punished, because nobody should lose their lives in the manner that we saw, happen in Techiman
South. Thank you very much. That's Selo Madonu, Head of Features and Articles here at Citi FM and Citi TV. My name is Abna Nyamechampedu. Thank you for watching the Voters Diary.
Voters Diary is sponsored by Samsung. Samsung, inspire the world, create the future.